And we're back on KUGR Cougar College Radio. This is the Rex Carlin Show. In studio with me now is a co-host for Cougar Sports Spotlight, Robin Dich.
Hey, how's it going? It's funny to be here right before my other show. So just a little warm-up, right? Warm-up with Rex.
Oh, of course. We're going to have we'll have Jason Puckett on at 11:30. No, your old pal from interning there last summer.
Hopefully he remembers me. I know there's a lot of interns filing in and out, so hopefully I stuck out. I mean, he did talk a little smack about me on the radio about my game with ladies, so I might have to update him with how I've been doing this year on that. So we'll see.
So I'm sure you've been hearing about this, as every Seattle fan loves to hear, the tension in the 49ers organization with Harbaugh and the GM, and as we're hearing now coming out, also the president. There's a lot going on with this Harbaugh story here.
Right.
And in case you guys haven't, the listener hasn't heard, we'll go through it real quick. Pro Football Talk came out a couple days ago with a piece saying that when the Cleveland Browns were looking for their new head coach, they had become so desperate that they sort of started looking into other ways of getting a head coach, and they remembered the whole John Gruden going from Oakland to Tampa Bay through a trade.
Right.
So then they started looking around at coaches from other teams to see who might fit that mold, and lo and behold, they found Harbaugh, who is in a contract dispute. Well, not necessarily a contract dispute. He wants to be re-signed. He's got 2 years left. The Niners won't re-sign him, and now we're figuring out that the reason they're not re-signing him is because they flat out don't like him. So the Browns tried to make a trade, draft picks for Harbaugh, and that didn't work out.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I feel that with the success that the 49ers have had in the recent years, especially with Harbaugh, this comes to a little bit of a surprise to me. I mean, you don't really expect a franchise to be on the ups and, really on the cusp of winning a championship. I mean, their rivalry with Seattle is so fired up because of how competitive we both are and how good we both are. And I think that's what is crazy about this whole situation is you never expect it. That's like us in the middle of what we're doing right now saying, you know what, John Schneider and Pete Carroll aren't really going so well, so we might look into trades for Pete Carroll. I mean, the city of San Francisco cannot be happy. Those 49er fans are probably freaking out at this point because I would freak out. I mean, if I heard that Pete Carroll and John Schneider had a beef and they're trying to figure it out by just trading one away, or you have to decide between me or her, like a girlfriend-boyfriend situation. I mean, man, that just will not end up well. There's no winner in this situation. There's no absolute way that anyone can come out of this situation a winner because even if they all stick together, there's always going to be that little bump in the road that's going to be there forever, and you're not going to be able to pave that out anytime soon.
I would say the one difference is that at least Pete Carroll and John Schneider are likable guys.
Right.
And outside of San Francisco, God, I would be hard-pressed to find very many people that would go out and say, oh, yeah, Harbaugh, great guy. But
you can't argue that he's a great coach. I mean, yes, I hate him as much as the next guy here in the state of Washington, but his track record does a lot of talking as well. I mean, when it comes down to football, it's a business, and a business is all about winning. It doesn't matter what business you're in as long as you're winning. But, I mean, the fact that this is happening isn't a little, surprising?
I would say the thing about this is that if the Niners went to the NFC title game 3 years in a row with Harbaugh and the Super Bowl in one of those 3 years, and they're willing to trade him like this, something tells me that they have someone in mind that they think can do just as good or better. And I think there's, in my opinion, one name out there that can do it.
And who's that?
John Gruden.
You think you can... man, that's tough because I'm a big John Gruden fan. But, I mean, you look at what teams have tried to get him, and they haven't been able to get him so far. I mean, if you have John Gruden as your backup plan, you better have something set like Mike Leach was here. I mean, yeah, we kicked out Paul Wolf, but we already had, Leach in the backgrounds. But they can't take him away and then go get the other guy, because the other guy is happy at home sitting there watching film, talking to young quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, I mean, if they're going to make a move, they've obviously been talking to somebody. But, the thinking might have been, hey, if we keep Harbaugh, we're going to have to pay him more. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to pay someone more. So we might as well pay Gruden more, or if Tony Dungy or someone. If we have to pay someone that money, we might as well pay someone that we can get along with, who is gonna, you can't tell me John Gruden couldn't take that roster to the same places.
Oh, I would hate to have John Gruden in the same division as the Seahawks. That would be a nightmare, especially with Kaepernick, who's such raw talent still. I mean, the fact that John Gruden, the last year he was at Tampa Bay, had about 7 quarterbacks come into training camp, and then he had to cut them on. They were all big name 7 quarterbacks. I mean, that right there is already scary enough for me. But of course, John Gruden would do well. But I mean, whether or not they stick with Jim Harbaugh or not, he's going to be successful somewhere else as well. I mean, that coach is going to be good somewhere else. But John Gruden, I'm telling you, if he comes out, they're going to pay him a lot more than they're going to have to pay Jim Harbaugh. And I get.
Well, that's true, because ESPN, I'm not sure of the exact figure, but I've heard 7-8 mil.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. That guy is either made fun of because of how much he knows and what he's saying. I mean, half the time he's analyzing something, I don't even know what plays he's calling out. I mean, I'm just letting him fly with a bunch of letters and a bunch of words, and that's okay. And I think a lot of people enjoy that. He's a great personality. Remember, when he was a coach as well, though, I mean, people didn't like his style. I mean, GMs didn't like his style. He was a fiery guy, but he's crazy. He's literally crazy. And you can tell when he does things for ESPN as well. So it'll be interesting if they are able to get someone like him. I mean, like I said, I would hate to have him in our division because he's such a great coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach if he continues coaching again.
So, just looking into this a little bit, the highly, highly respected journalism website of Bleacher Report says that Gruden signed a 5-year extension with ESPN late 2012 for just over $4 million annually. This has been. He told Pro Football Talk that he's reaffirmed his commitment to ESPN and staying throughout. So, yeah, I mean, if you're sitting in a studio talking to young quarterbacks for $4 million a year and you get to go to Monday Night Football every week, I think it takes 7 or 8 to get him back on a field.
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream. I mean, he's making head coach money by being a personality. I mean, how much stress is there really in that job? I mean, compared to being a football coach. Of course, it's a hard job. I'm not saying me and you could get in there and do exactly what John Gruden's doing.
Oh, come on.
But, I mean, you look at what he wants. I think it's got to be more than that, and for him to come out. Or, I mean, if you think about it, too, the San Francisco 49ers, it's kind of like a dream scenario to come in, like a Bill Cowher or Tony Dungy or, like you said, John Gruden, because you don't have to build a team. It's not rebuilding a team. It's taking that team to the next level. And I think those are the situations those coaches would love to come back to. And I think that is one upside, I guess, for John Gruden to leave ESPN to go to San Francisco, is because they're there. There's no argument that they're not there, that they could win a championship almost any year. It's just, can they get there?
If you're the Niners and you could have one or the other right now, who would you take for next season?
Man, I would take Jim Harbaugh. I know John Gruden's the sexy name out there that everyone wants. Who doesn't want that guy as a coach in your city? But I mean, the success is there, regardless of if Jim Harbaugh's relationship with the GMs, with the president is there's a lot of friction there. I mean, look at it. Look at how his relationship with the players. I think that's the most important. I mean, him and Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is as big as a diva as Jim Harbaugh is. I mean, they build off of each other. You look at how he does interviews. I'm pretty sure Colin Kaepernick studies Jim Harbaugh's tape as he's doing interviews because they do it the same way, short answers. Don't look in the camera, but
it's not the right way to do interviews. By the way, folks.
I agree. Yes, it's terrible. It makes me when I go to media things and try to get quotes, it makes me want to pull out my hair because what are you guys doing? You guys aren't better than other people, but I mean, you can tell from just that the relationship is so close and that they're both so similar because they respect each other and he has great relationships with the players, and you'd have to go with that. That's more important than friction between the GM and president.
This is the Rex Carlin Show. We're in studio with Robin Dich for the 11 o'clock hour. 11:30, KJR Seattle's Jason Puckett will join us. Robin, we're hearing about Red Bryant with the Seahawks being a cap casualty. What are your thoughts on that? Is it people are saying he's a captain, he's the leader, he's been here since pre-Carroll, we need to keep him. As someone told me a couple weeks ago, the way Seattle plays D-line, we can't pay guys like other teams pay guys because we have such a deep D-line and play so many guys. We need to start paying guys per snap. Mm-hmm. And Red Bryant is making far more money than he deserves his pay.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. He earns far more money than the snaps he plays would dictate him earning.
Looking at this whole situation, how there's already a huge debate, a lot of buzz around Seattle, it's going to be scary when we have to sign Russell Wilson, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, all those guys. It's going to be a wild storm during those years. But right now, I guess we're getting a little bit taste of it. And I think what needs to happen is I think we need to cut him. And that's that. I mean, Red Bryant has had such a contribution on this team, like you said, with leadership, being such a stand-up guy, someone that all of these young players have looked up to because, I mean, even though he's only 29, he's pretty much one of the oldest guys on our team when you think about it. And that's tough to replace, I agree, but we're in this age of football where we have to keep up with other teams, and that's that. I mean, we can't, as a business and as a franchise, we can't sit there and be, we're going to hurt that guy's feelings or that we're going to hurt that relationship. He's been there before. It's all about the now, and that's what has to happen with football. And of course, we're clearing space to get Bennett, and that's the tough part. I wish he would take a little pay cut, but obviously at the same time, I agree. I get what he's doing. He wants to get his because he deserves it, and he's had such a great year. But Red Bryant, as you said, with the snaps he plays and the contribution now, it's dwindled as the years gone on because we've had such a deep defensive line. And I think it's hard to say, but I think he can be replaced as with a Michael Bennett who plays a little bit more snaps or something like that.
Ian Rappaport, I'm sure you know, NFL.com, NFL Media Insider, he is reporting that the Seahawks would save $5.5 million in cap space by cutting Bryant. They've already announced that they're going to cut Sidney Rice. The two cuts would free up room to sign both Michael Bennett and Golden Tate. Now, I am totally for the Sidney Rice cut. There's nothing.
We could run better routes and faster routes than Sidney Rice at this point in time. I'm fairly positive of that. So
yeah, no, and he's a walking injury right
exactly.
now. The one thing, and I hesitate to say this because I don't know his family situation, where he's at, what's going on there, but I wouldn't rule it out that the Seahawks cut Bryant and then before training camp starts, he's re-signed for a much smaller contract so he could stay in Seattle. Mm-hmm. I say this just because he's 29 years old. He's a veteran. If you at a certain point in your career, you want to settle down.
Right.
So depending on his thought process, he might be out there saying, hey, I'm going to go out and get one more big contract. Mm-hmm. And he might test the waters and do that, but he might circle back around and say, you know what, I'm going to finish this thing off right. We're going to win a couple more Super Bowls.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. At this point in time, you look at it and you're just saying, okay, well, all that's come out is he wants the contract. He wants the biggest contract. And maybe we have enough room, and maybe we can work things out. Maybe we can re-sign Red Bryant after we cut him. I mean, it's not uncommon for that to happen. But, yeah, maybe he takes some money down, and he comes back. And he wants to win the championship. But, there are also athletes, even though he's a Seahawk, and we want to think he's loyal. We want to think he's going to do everything he can for the team.
No, there's no loyalty in this sport.
No, there's not. I mean, think about it. If once Russell Wilson's contract comes up and we don't give him the best deal, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he left. I mean, if we don't give him the money he deserves, it's going to be hard to keep players. I mean, we're not going to be because our Golden Tate already is going to take some money down, and that's the thing. We don't want to be the team that says, okay, we'll re-sign you, but you're going to have to bring down your price a little bit.
No, and the thing that makes me think that Bryant might be the one that would do this is because no one is going to pay him $8.5 million. Right. No one's going to pay that. So the Seahawks are paying him money for stuff he did before, when he earned that contract. No one is going to pay him $8.5 million. So at a certain point, you got to say, so someone like Michael Bennett, his stock is going up. So he's going to go take the biggest contract.
Right.
Because his stock's going up. Well, Red Bryant's stock is going down, and he was overpaid as it is because he wasn't playing as much because we have so many D linemen that are in the mix that you don't know how far his number is going to fall.
Right.
So those are the types of players that might take that, and go to Seattle. Someone that they don't know how far their number is going to fall. And especially if he has family, if he's settled down here, we don't know what his family situation's like, but at a certain point you say, hey, I might settle down. Now Michael Bennett's a completely different case. His stock is skyrocketing.
Yeah, and when you look at Red Bryant, I mean, yeah, maybe someone won't pay him $8.5 million over whatever span, but I mean, the guy's still 29, and he's a 6'4" body with 323 pounds on him, and that's not 323 pounds of just fat. That is 323 pounds of man. And when you look at
323 pounds of man,
exactly. I mean, the guy is a stud. I mean, when he gets out there, he does his thing. I mean, he's a great special teams player. I mean, we've seen him block multiple field goals throughout his time here in Seattle. You also see what he's been able to do as a defensive end. I mean, 323 pounds, and you're playing D end. I mean, the guy is meant for D tackle. I mean, or a nose. I mean, you look at.
He's meant to be a nose.
Yeah, I mean, you look at just what can do. He's so versatile, and when you look at that, so maybe they don't pay him that, but I wouldn't be surprised if a team outbid him than the Seattle Seahawks. And yeah, maybe he's been settled down. He's done that, but it's not uncommon to see someone who's been in a franchise for a while move on to the next part of his life.
Now, the one thing that I would remind everyone is that with all this free agent talk and Michael Bennett and Golden Tate and Doug Baldwin and Red Bryant, the one thing we're forgetting is that this team was built off the draft. And off signing undrafted free agents. We built a Super Bowl winning team on the cheap, and we have John Schneider, Pete Carroll, all the same guys in place running, the draft, signings. There's no reason to think that we can't do that again.
Right.
The way you built it the first time won you a Super Bowl. There's no saying, there's no way that we could say, oh, that's not going to happen again, because Schneider and Carroll are so gifted at drafting.
Yeah, I mean, at first, I didn't really buy into the whole Pete. I actually said the opposite. I'm wondering what Pete Carroll was doing for the first couple of drafts, but they finally worked out, obviously, and he's proven me wrong. And you're right. I mean, the amount of snaps that Red Bryant played this year, you're able to get that out of a rookie. You can. Maybe it's not the same atmosphere, and maybe, of course, Red Bryant knows the game a little bit better. But the snaps and the body and the rotation, you can plug in someone who you think can take place of it. And that's the thing. You said it. You said it yourself. The fact that they've been able to draft so well for not only needs but future. I mean, the thing, we could sign Red Bryant for a 3-year deal and whatever, $4 million a year. But we can sign a kid for about 4 years and pay him jack, and he'll do just as well.
I think the one thing, too, it won't guarantee that this will sustain success, but there's a good shot, is that a lot of times when teams have good drafts, there's a lot of luck involved.
Right.
There's someone traded up right in front of them, and they got the one guy that fell, The thing about the Seahawks is they graded as an F like just 2 or 3 years ago in the draft. It's not like the Seahawks are getting lucky and the best player available is just falling to them for all 10 of their draft picks. They're picking guys that other teams aren't looking at.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that, you can sustain success in the draft because no one else is looking at it like you do. And if no one else looks at it like you do, you get what you want every single year.
And it's funny, not only that now, but we're in their head. We're in everyone's head because they're wanting to be like us now. They're wanting to do things like us. And the fact that that's happening, they're going to overthink the draft now. I mean, they're probably a bunch of GMs hitting up John Schneider and trying to get his assistants and trying to pick their assistants off and help them out, and it's not going to work because the way that he does it, it's so methodical that there's no way you and I, we could take a class together for 3 days a week for an hour on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays here at WSU, try to figure out why he drafts people the way that he drafts, what he looks at, how does he know they're going to be good in the NFL. We could take that class for 4 years in college, and I guarantee we would get nowhere. That's like trying to figure out what Omaha means in Peyton Manning's offense, except Richard Sherman figured it out.
I think that part of it, too, is you need to know what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So if they had gone and gotten an F grade 1 year with guys, that weren't being looked at by other teams and they went off and did great, like Richard Sherman's draft class, that'd be one thing. But since they've done it 2-3 years in a row and gotten guys out of it, it shows that whatever they're looking at does work.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just luck the first time. So that makes me believe that they're going to continue to succeed. And the one guy I would watch for the Seahawks to draft, and this has nothing to do with him coming out and being gay.
Mm-hmm.
I totally see them drafting Michael Sam.
Right.
That is the perfect undersized D-end outside linebacker type that, he doesn't fit the mold.
Right.
What do we get? We get guys who don't fit the mold.
Exactly. And I've been looking into that as well, and that guy could fall. I mean, I had a NFL draft expert from USA Today, Nolan Fasson, who came on, and we talked about him because that's the hot topic. Where regardless of people want to say, "Oh, I don't care if he's gay. I want to know if he can play." That's part of it. I mean that whole thing is part of it. That is baggage. That is the changing of dynamic in the locker room, and in this day and age, yeah, it's accepted. I mean, I don't care, and I'm sure you don't care, and a lot more than anyone in the NFL don't care, but there's still baggage. There's that media.
It is going to be a media frenzy wherever he goes.
Exactly. And, we talked about it a little bit. My buddy, who's a huge New England Patriots fan, he said it'd be hilarious if Bill Belichick grabbed him because he would just shut out the media because he's so good at it. So I laughed a little bit about that, but you're right. We take chances on people. We draft people that people are second guessing, and we're able to mold them into players that we don't. The thing is, we don't force players to do things that they're uncomfortable with. We make them do exactly what they're great at, and they excel at what they do. I mean, You just look at Richard Sherman. We have him just play coverage one-on-one all the time. He excels at that. We don't ever have him kind of play zone. We don't have him blitz as much. I mean, we don't do things that he's not good at. And I think that's what's great about this team. I mean, Bruce Irvin, a lot of examples. I can just name off a bunch, but that's just exactly what the Seahawks do. And with Michael Sam, he's a great DN. He has the skill set. It's just the size that's killing him right now. And I mean, you look at some of the DNs that have size problems. Dwight Freeney comes to mind, and he did pretty good. He's doing pretty well in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think if he's there, like in the fifth round, if he's there, we got him.
Mm-hmm.
If he's there in the fourth, and other than the picks that we've gotten through trades and things like that, we have the last pick in each round. So basically, by saying if he's there in the fourth round, we're saying if he is there as the last pick in the fourth round. I mean, I'd take him. And on top of that, to go on, I think this would be a little over the top, and it would be unreal with the media if this happened. But I also wouldn't put it past John Schneider to sign Jonathan Martin.
Yeah. Oh,
high upside and very cheap because he's just going to want to get back in the league.
And it'd be a great place here. I mean, look how he's still young. A lot of upside, like you said. We're a young team, and we're about fun at the same time as we are about football. And I think that's an interesting thing. I never really thought about Jonathan Martin's situation because, that whole thing has been so ridiculous. I mean, you can take it from any angle, whether it's been blown out of proportion or something he said, she said, all that stuff.
Have you read the text?
Yeah, some that I mean, that's been just a wild storm that's gone through, and hopefully it'll pass soon. I mean, that's the type of stuff you don't want to hear about the NFL. You don't want to see people, being bullied. I mean, hopefully people have gotten past that stage of elementary, adolescent type of, bullying. I mean, you don't really hear that anymore when you get to college or the professional world. I mean, it is there, but not to that extent like it is when you're back in elementary school and the kid's picking on you. That's how I saw it to that extent. And of course it's more grown up. But if we get Jonathan Martin, I mean, again, Seattle, like I mentioned, New England, there's certain areas where your pass kind of clears. I mean,
they're strong locker rooms
exactly.
is what they are. It's, Seattle, New England, wherever Peyton Manning's at. So Denver.
Exactly. I mean, you look at, there are certain areas that I'm sure even Jonathan Martin has X'd on to be a landing spot because, like I said, there's only certain areas that either your history goes away or they really protect you as a player. And that's Seattle. I mean, their players protect each other. And I mean, you look at Bruce Irvin when he served that 6-game suspension for PEDs, or 4 games, excuse me, and you look at what they said about him. They said, "Oh, he'll be back, he'll be better," and that passed away in about a week. I mean, I was interning for KJR at that time, and it was done talking for a week. I mean, if you look at other places, they would talk about it for the 4 weeks that he was suspended for. So, I mean, it's a different culture here in Seattle, and I think we'd be welcoming to almost anyone.
And I think one thing, too, is, and I don't want to put the whole Dolphins thing, I don't want to put that on Ryan Tannehill.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that happens in the Peyton Manning locker room?
It's tough because, one, I wish we were NFL players, but we're not. So we don't know what the environment's like. And that's the thing. I mean, you can turn your cheek to something. Maybe it's because Jonathan Martin's the first one to really step out. But that's just how it is.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with Jason Puckett on KUGR Cougar College Radio. This is the Rex Carlin Show.